Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Craft, a stream devoted to open curtain creation on setting building. Sorry, I'm a little quiet right now. Where we talk about metaplots, minutiae, mechanics, maps on Thursdays. How's everyone doing tonight? Post a link in chat real quick to the my noise generator I'm using right now. Just because I want to throw out some because they're a really little website that does soundscapes that I often listen to, but often don't come through on stream for some reason. Haven't been able to figure out. But nonetheless, that's what I'm looking at second. But yeah, so how's everyone? Time zone. Greetings, Brian. Welcome, welcome. That's quite late there, isn't it? 11 o'clock-ish? Also, I guess you're using military time. Shadows Fall. I'm so excited for when that fully comes out. I couldn't back the Kickstarter because I'm poor, but I'm definitely going to pick it up as soon as I can. Highly recommend it to folks listening. Shadows Fall. So, last week on Worlds and Crafts, we worked on Gator City. It was it was the city of the Old Spirit. Massive, titanic creature strolling the land with the city on its back. And that was a lot of fun. I enjoyed making that with you guys quite a lot. It was a goofy suggestion at first, but the more that we really dive into it, I feel like it's now an actual living, breathing part of this setting that we're working on. So had a ton of fun with that Kebaya, the city of the Old Spirit. And I don't want to dive too far into any one particular setting element because, well, trying to practice steady zoom. We zoomed in on that, so now we have to zoom in on some other things. And I was thinking that today we could work on that city on the savannah. And what I was thinking we could include in there the overarching setting element of the city of lost magic. And so, to recap, for those who haven't been here, the setting that we're working on is loosely titled Remembering the Lost. And it is a setting about rekindling the magic inside of yourself and the world through remembering the magic of life, invention, and community. The setting will have themes of a changing world with supernatural entities such as maybe the Fae, dragons, spirits, all either disappearing or leaving or losing their power. They understand that something is going on, even if only in part, and the journey to changing the world is the protagonist's primary action. Heal or harm, it is an epic fantasy about the path of renewal, struggle, and destruction. Or I should say, or destruction. And so there's some overarching themes and feelings that we've been, using as our base point, which I've got right here, setting-wide themes and feelings. That life unaffected by civilization contains a specific kind of magic, natural life unaffected by the human tendency, categorize and constrain, but it becomes lost through that civilizing effect, that magic, and it is untamable force that dies when it's. There's an inventive spark in humankind as well that contains a different kind of magic. That becomes lost through struggle and pain. The force of creation, endeavor that dies out when it's snuffed out. Some other setting-wide themes and feelings is that the world is dangerous. Massive magical constructs stride the land between cargo and people. None are exactly alike, if similar, for they're living creatures that are created through fusing physical matter with spiritual matter. The exact methods of which we haven't gotten into, because that's, I would say, a later thing. And a big theme is that adventure is the call that everyone feels. Out in the world, there are lost memories, there are miracles, there is wisdom to be found. And then the final, and I would probably say most important theme, you can always rekindle your magic, you can always heal the wound. So that's kind of the basis of what we've done in Aries. And hello there, Half Lost Pixie. Welcome, welcome as well. But yeah, that's where we left off, was building out the concepts of this alligator that is potentially 10 times the size of Godzilla, and also apparently asleep, and sleepwalking across the world as a strange, unknowable god to some, mystery to others. But today, I wanted to look at what the rest of the world looks like. And we had hinted previously at a city on the savannah, a city on a river. And we'd even built that into the map a little bit, built a location for it at least. So I thought that we could focus today on... Yeah, it was really great. Like, it was such a good suggestion. So I want to focus in on this city, which I was thinking we could really try and hammer into it, into its very creation, the theme of lost magic. One of the initial founding pillars when we started building this setting, and it was based on community input purely. Like this is what Worlds and Crafts is we're literally just building things based on community input because it's fun and it's a good creative practice. Building as a community. So one of the original suggestions was that someone's personal favorite fantasy is they like to imagine the magic behind the mundane in their day-to-day lives, walking by a park, cemetery, going through your day-to-day life, but finding or imagining that there's magic there somewhere, rekindling that or uncovering it, or maybe just wondering at it. And I thought it would be really great if we took that aspect and we brought that in and we made that an integral part of this city on plains, on the savannas, sweltering plains. So that was my idea for tonight, and obviously that is merely a starting point. This can go many unexpected places because I really want and value your input, and I will still create without it, but it's more fun to input. Rearrange my windows here. And I thought that the My Noise link that I posted earlier, the bells of the herd is getting a little annoying. Probably gonna turn, but definitely wanted the larks, the wind. Great big thriving plane. But yeah, so I'm listening to Grassland Soundscape. And so I did write a tiny little flavor type intro after grabbing some images, posting their reference ones from Fantasy Flight Games, and this Upsplash, or Unsplash rather. All life thrives on the waters of the moor. On the hottest day, when the rivers run low and the mud bakes dry and the red-bellied skinks hide in the shade of our tents. On the coldest nights, when you can see your breath and the beasts huddle for warmth. All life thrives on the waters of the moor. Beneath towering clay brick walls, cultivated gardens, and colorful tarps, the people of the city of forgotten magic manage to thrive. And then, base concept. Situated on an island in the middle of the Great River Moor, the city is merely the latest of countless to reside there. The waters of the river can be life-giving in the arid grasslands of the region, or they can be destructive and overwhelming. Yet the city's walls still stand, stone pillars marking its curvature and measure, even if what lies between them changes every few centuries. The current people who live there make good use of clay and sediment in the river, building with mud brick and shaping environment. Not a typo. Oh, man. So, for those listening, those interested in inputting, I would ask you, based on those descriptions, based on these images, what is the first thing that comes to mind. And Broken Golem. Does it literally exist on top of old cities? Well, I think that could be interesting. Yeah, is it actually physically on top of old cities? Maybe cities that were washed away or something, and their ruins were built on top of? Or is it merely that certain things still stand? I didn't answer that question. I wanted it to be answered here on stream. Does anyone else have any input? Initially, I was thinking that based on the description, the image that came to my mind was that there's these great big stone structures that the city is built on, and maybe that they weren't initially a city at all. Who knows? But yeah, that for the most part it was built fresh, maybe on portions of existing walls that they have patched or built up themselves. But I like this idea that there are pillars, and that these massive pillars, these gargantuan pillars. That's why we can't. I like the idea that ancestors built on top of a kind of Atlanta, and that's why we can't find it. Okay, I like that too. Now that so all right, Broken Golem and Half Lost Pixie both kind of suggested something similar, which I really. So there is a lost and or forgotten city buried beneath current, like layers of paint on old woodwork. There is a trove of information, relic, deep beneath workings. I knew you meant Atlantis. I was just reading word for word. That's an excellent question as well. So one of the themes that we had is that magic can always be rekindled, right? So I think that we have a space where there's plenty of magic already. This Gator City, that's very, very magical. So I was thinking maybe this would be a place that might feel mystical to some people because it's beautiful, but maybe that it itself is kind of losing its magic. Yeah, it is quite late there. I don't want to take part in that argument. Not anymore. Not on the stream. In private, though, by all means, yeah. So, City is losing its magic. We had previously kind of established that there are two major reasons why magic might fade. Nature's kind of magic, the kind of almost alien mysticism of like completely untamed nature. It's almost alien because we're so far removed. That there's a magic there, but that there's also a magic in the creativity of human life, of our minds. Ooh. So perhaps things that are found are old technology's mechanism that moves to play and have found a giant gearwork finding piles of old chain and rope. I like that. Okay. So the city's losing its magic and majesty, but not in the strictest visual sense. In the spiritual sense. So, the thought, what if this old civilization also lost its magic, and was technologically advanced. And so nature having been not completely removed, but still disrupted and made orderly, and so the natural magic kind of gone here. Not gone, but tamped down. That's what I'm looking for. Phrase. And that's a brilliant idea. Okay, in the spiritual sense. City, excuse me, great technologies that have spurned some creation but stifled others. Oh, actually, okay, I just had a great idea. So, at one point, great technologies were unearthed, and the city became very prosperous. Once those discoveries dried up, though, and wealthy interests of the cities wanted only more, the city began to lose its inventive and natural wonder, as unearthing the past became more important than making today better. Brilliant. Thank you, guys. That was wonderful. Was there any changes or suggestions anyone would want to add to that? So the city once became very prosperous. Like you said, maybe it was the origin of the either the knowledge or the ideas behind the walkers that are walking. But now that's over. It was it's a resource that has been tapped. Maybe not really. There probably still is stuff down there. I like that the city has gone immediately, basically 100% immediately, into some very darkest dungeon and and like Heart the City Beneath type vibes. Like immediately. It's like, we have this lovely city on the savannah and it's built on the ruins of old cities. And they're like, what if there's eldritch horrors? And it's like, all right, here we go. Of course, I am exaggerating. Or no eldritch. Or are there? Oh. I think I just figured out a way to make this pretty bright setting horror. Hear me out, everyone. Hear me out. This is a shift from what we've been doing in a kind of a big way, but it works. What if the complete loss of magic from the natural world, the complete loss of magic from the inventive spark, what if these things combined when they are completely snuffed out creates kind of a spiritual vacuum and something rushes to fill it? Something not from here. We're getting, yeah, but nature abhors a vacuum, and so a natural force, a natural force filling it in. But maybe that natural force is something else. There's been this layer of magic. Yeah, it would be. There's been this layer of magic over the world for a long time, based on the setting. It's created by trees and wildlife and the rhythm of life and struggle, and life and death and birth. Life and death and love and birth and peace and love on the planet. Sorry. But, you have this magic as a result of that. And then the magic spark in humanity created kind of this inventive ability. And yeah, like an anti-force, antimatter. And so now it's all gone. But something from outside rushes in to fill it. And it's kind of corrupting seems like it corrupts it because you've basically destroyed the topsoil, bitch. It's a topsoil analogy. Don't destroy the topsoil. Don't plow so deep, damn it. Yeah, that's a setting-wide thing. I feel good about that. Does anyone else have any input? As I said, something that I think should be addressed very strongly is in all design, being prepared to toss out the work you've done is a very important aspect. So at different points, we may end up just going, well, that's terrible, and trimming it out and putting it aside. And, maybe it'll come in use later for a different project. But for the moment, maybe it doesn't fit. But yeah, the zonings exhibit things that, like, defying the natural laws of physics, etc. Okay, so there are zones when all magic becomes lost that are filled with something else. I'm used to typing in Discord. Something else. It is seemingly unnatural and is the opposite of and is contrarian. Seemingly unnatural and is contrarian. Yeah, so floating islands, reverse waterfalls, strange temperature fields. I was also thinking that haha. Ooh, that's a thought. What if it's just the magic of, like, no, that wouldn't work. It can't be entropy because entropy is a natural force, right? We already have a dragon of entropy too. That's fun. God, the dragons would be pissed about this. Yeah, so we also created dragons as abstract concepts. We're gonna dive into those later after we kind of develop what the setting looks like for regular people. I don't want to get too far into the big supernatural elements unless it's relevant to that. So I like that. Floating islands. Let's just say gravity. Gravity doesn't behave normally. Gravity, what else? I gotta think of forces here, because we can't just have all natural forces being the opposite, because what happens then in my sci-fi brain is we get a matter-antimatter collision and then everything blows up. So, we don't want to turn the entire world into a big bang. So there's that. So gravity is reversed. Temperatures. Yeah, gravity, temperature. Because we are working inside of metaphors, right? Inside of analogy, inside of allegory, I guess. Gravity, temperature, pressure. Life. Maybe this is where undeath happens in our setting. And maybe this is where strange monsters come about. Monsters that are far worse than anything the magical world could give you. This lovely magical world, which ultimately represents the pristineness of untouched wilderness. Alright, so there are zones in the world when all magic becomes lost that are filled with something else, seemingly unnatural and contrarian. Gravity, temperature, pressure, life are all reversed in philosophically significant ways. I think that's good and vague for a setting-wide theme feeling, because then as we develop more things, we can refer to this and go, hey, there's this thing. Where do we want that reflected here? So, deep beneath the city is a null zone. Maybe it's one of the earliest null zones that hasn't healed. I think they should be. Yeah. They dug too deep. Exactly, the old Dwarven trope. But it's not just old Dwarven. That's a very real thing. If you dig too deep in reality, you're getting to it becomes very unnatural in the human mind. It's a good question, your big dad. And hello, I haven't seen you typing in chat yet tonight. So welcome, welcome. You know, and I realized I saw Nat 20 earlier as well, and hello, Nat. Yeah, and so if you think about the concept of digging too deep, well, I'm glad you could join us for a couple minutes. If you think of the concept of digging too deep, there is a really great episode of the Magnus Archives about that, about going deep underground and how some people find it oddly comforting to go spelunking. But there is this sense when you continue to get deeper and deeper and deeper in the earth, it's inhospitable. I used to be like, yeah, spelunking sounds fun, and now I'm just like, no, I'm good. I'm really, really, really good. Actually, it's funny. One of the only things I've ever done involving natural caves, was the Call of Cthulhu scenario, Saint Swithin's Hole. So that was the thing. Let's see. So, back to our city here. Beautiful, sunlit, golden city with colorful tarps and clay brick walls and buildings. Lots of adobe mud brick. On a green river, on an island in the midst of it. All life coming here, thriving on the waters of the river Moor. And there's something terrible happening in the Gravia the Malkav. Welcome. No problem at all. Today we're working on this lovely, lovely city right here. Very pretty on the surface, but underneath is a lot of things. So one thing I would personally avoid getting into, thing to avoid for me, I really don't want this city turning into the prototypical like Den of Thieves or anything like that. I'm not interested in that one bit. I'm interested in having this seem like a nice place, and that it is a nice place, but of course it is kind of losing its soul. It's beautiful, but it seems like there's no new art, and there's very little new creation, and more people are working in the ruins beneath the city. I think that the entrance to the ruins beneath the city, and this is very much metaphorical, lies beneath the palace, or seat of government. I think that would be most appropriate in a very interesting way. Um, I mean, after all, I don't know where it comes from, but the fish rots from the head down, no? Okay, so local themes and there's a lost and or forgotten city buried beneath the current. Like layers of paint on old woodwork, there's a trove of information and relic deep beneath the workings of the current. Yeah. Um, the city is losing its magic and majesty, but not in the strictest visual sense, in a spiritual sense. At one point, great technologies were unearthed here. They became very prosperous. Once those discoveries dried up, though, and the wealthy interests of the city wanted only more, the city began to lose its inventive and natural wonder, as unearthing the past became more important than making today better. Farmers around the city, farmers, millers, and artisans around the city are not prosper as much as they once did. I don't want to recreate kind of destitution and poverty, but I do want, the implication that things aren't very good right now. They might still have nice things and a big beautiful house, but maybe there's a little bit of decay here and there, things that have gone unfixed because things just aren't as good right now. It's a spare year, at least in their minds. Ooh. Oh. That is an excellent question, Gravia the Malkov. So something that I did not think to address. Going back to our lovely dragons as abstract ideas made manifest. We did decide that there are temples to these dragons, where they tend to manifest, and so there's dragons of empathy, grief, consciousness, creation. So that is an excellent question. Is there? Well, it's not just dragons. There's also the gods, which exist inside of objects, physical objects around the world, that must be found to be made use of. Haha, I like that. I'm glad to hear you say that, Gravia the Molkov. It is fun to imagine specific characters there. So, given the city already, let's not look at what we've created. Let's look at what would be a good fit. So for this city, the kind of worship, the kind of religion going on, what are its themes? What are some of the big themes of the religion in the city? Because the city, I was thinking, was at one point a place of a lot of culture, a lot of art and trade and food, and it was still a hub of civilization, and therefore still kind of killing the natural magic, but not killing the creative spark in people. It was very prosperous, a crossroads, a great moot type thing. So there's bound to be old and new religion, I guess, based on that change. So for the old religion, maybe a deity of the crossroads and travel, or maybe blessings of oasis and shelter. Ah, okay. You're imagining a Byzantine type of culture around the city with a pantheon. So now, though, the city is losing its magical touch. So maybe the Dragon of Creation stopped visiting. People make home for the dragon, and the clergy do make way for the dragon. The dragon stopped visiting for some reason or another. This could be a driving force for adventure. Again, there are gods and they're out the world, so a character from here could be an adherent to this dragon of creation who wants to know why and leaves the city as a result. Um, that is the old religion, the religion of your parents, so to speak, of your grandparents. So then, what is the new religion? The people now look to. Maybe there is hmm. Yeah, exactly. And not a huge thing, more of just a generational gap. I mean, like if you take people in their 60s versus people in their 20s and 30s, 60s, 70s, 20s, and 30s, and you take like that gap of time, but due to something big changing, not because the world moves quickly. And I was thinking that maybe something more secular, um, or just maybe more relevant to today. I mean, a lot of the people in the city we've kind of established, end up taking part in the excavation of ruins. So maybe there is a deity of luck, fortune, that is worshipped widely, because it was fortune that the city discovered the technology that allowed it to be so prosperous, and now they want more fortune. They want more luck. Oh, worshippers of the, let's call them forebearers for now. Um, so those who came before. Not ancestor worship really. But that is definitely kind of that more modernization thing, because instead of feeling good and worshiping the things around you, you're worshiping something that you're out of touch with. Um, and that's really, I think, what we're going for, is that we want these people in the new religion to be worshiping things that they're out of touch with, but that they want, that they need. So in order to succeed here, you need luck and maybe worshiping the forebearers, these people that made these massive machines once upon a time. Maybe worshiping them as gods will bring you favor. So a question then in response to that is, who answers their prayers, if anyone? And I think that could be something that could be left unanswered. But I wanted to ask it anyway. Right, exactly. So the city's stability previously relied most likely. Oh, the river itself. Okay. A deity of luck and fortune, a river spirit, a great river spirit. Is the deity of luck and fortune just the Gator God? Have we come back to Gator God City? I'm kidding. I don't immediately want to do that, but still, a deity of luck and fortune, a great river spirit. I think that's good. Worshippers of the forebearers. Um, yeah. So the whole forebearers thing is who answers their prayers, not necessarily the luck and fortune. Um, and I think it would be good to have one more. Maybe there is one dragon who started showing up, and I'm thinking that it's the dragon of entropy. Started showing up out of the blue. Some people rose up to make a temple. Did I say empathy? I meant entropy if I said that. Okay, just making sure. But yeah, so the Dragon of Entropy maybe started visiting without prompting. Well, because there is a lot of decay in the city right now. There's a lot of things coming to an end. End of an age. I feel good about that. Having a basis for religion in the city. Not to mention that the waste of the city, pools and places washed down river. Right. Yeah, and I mean, with all the excavation, they're bound to create a lot more waste than they ever have in the past. Oh, I just had a really dark thought. I said I didn't want this to turn into a super gruesome thing, but it's turning that in my head. I think that the Dragon of Entropy is drawn to things ending, coming to a natural end, even if caused by an unnatural impetus. Because entropy is an all-encompassing force. So, I'm thinking that Dragon of Entropy can be drawn to death, can be drawn to a philosophical end of things, like an end of an era, an end of a thought line, of a very prolific philosophy. I think that we could expand entropy to include a lot of things, and that we should keep it mysterious. We shouldn't answer those questions too much because entropy as a philosophical concept is so bizarre. Is it a harbinger? Good question. Why don't you come up with an answer for me? Or we can ask everyone else as well. Seriously though, like I mean, I didn't think of it that way. I just thought that this thing is here, therefore it's here. But the thought I had is maybe there's a lot more people dying in the ruins than anyone's letting on. Getting lost or a cave-in, all kinds of things. And if people are dying in the null zone, what happens to them? Yeah, that's fair, Gravia. And now that I think about it, I think I agree. I think that it wouldn't be a harbinger because I don't want the game to include notions of right, adventurers in a labyrinth. So I don't necessarily want to include the notion of the world moving in big ways outside of the player's control. Ultimately, at the end of the day, these gods are imprisoned. There are gods imprisoned in stones. They have no power over the world anymore. These dragons of entropy are abstract concepts made manifest. They are those things. So maybe it's not necessarily that they actually arrive. Maybe it is merely that a tiny portion of them manifests in the world where there are lots of those things. The Dragon of Creation stopped visiting because people stopped making. The Dragon of Entropy started visiting because the amount of death and decay and things going wrong is greater than anything else. Entropy is merely that all things grow cold, all things come to an inevitable end. Balance is cold. I imagine that the Dragon of Entropy concept, I feel like the dragon itself, if you could even talk to it. Oh, this is with the surface. Yeah, so going back to the Dragon of Entropy thing. If it could even talk, what would something like that have to say to people? Something so vast, so incomprehensibly large, and so abstract. If someone could gain its attention for long enough, it would probably be amused. It would probably just be like, oh, look at that. Thing's talking to me. Wow. Impressive. All right. And all you see as the force of entropy is the inevitable end of all things. And knowing that that end will ultimately result in another beginning. You're kind of this odd rebirth, but you're the focus on that thing. Maybe the gods of creation and the god of entropy are the same dragon. They're just different aspects of it. We don't want to answer those questions, but I'm trying to impress impress upon you the idea that I don't necessarily want to explain the gods. I don't want to explain the dragons too much. I just want them to be there. And I want them to be these big forces that don't necessarily move the world, but seem to be there when the world moves, whether by consequence or by action. It's unknowable. Right, and so if someone asked them a question and they could answer it, and they see nothing in the world but the end of all things, they would probably, I mean, if you add a human element, which I always add to all deities, I think there should be a human element, that we're taking our perspective as humans and going, if a human mind could expand that much and be that large, what would it think of something so small and so infinitesimally brief? And I feel like it would be something like, almost like a tender amusement. Like, oh, that's very cute. Look at you. So little time left, and here you are talking. Feeling maybe a little bit flattered, you know, that like that's adorable. Like you looking at a bug who's paying attention to you. You know, like that's funny. So there's that. I don't see any reason why the gods shouldn't be beneficent. Because, you know, the deities, that is to say, not beneficent like not as in generous, beneficent as in empathetic. I will not change the course of the world for you, but I do feel for you. I feel all of the grief that you know, grief, consciousness, all of these are all aspects of the same thing, really. I like the idea of empathetic things. And maybe the gods who are locked in stones aren't so empathetic. Maybe they're a bit more on the human side and a little bit more impulsive. Maybe that's why they were locked in stones. Um, but zoom back in, or rather, let's zoom back out from that. We're gonna take the dragon and go. You can sit on the shelf over here. We're gonna zoom back out and come back to this big city that we're looking at, with its golden walls and its beauty and all of its art and architecture, with corruption underneath. I'm not sure I understand what you mean, broken golem, by that. Nonetheless, so we have established then that the city is like a beautiful wood carving that has had layers of paint laid over it. And as you peel back those layers, find out more and more about who made it, what happened. And this city right now, the newest one, is losing the magic it had in its earliest inception. Great technologies emerged from here, but now there's corruption. The farmers, the millers, and the artisans around the city not prosper as much as they once did. Most of them probably still worship the old faiths. Um, you know, crossroads, travel, oasis, shelter, creation. Maybe they make pilgrimage to the city. I feel like the blessings of oasis and shelter temple is a big inn, big hostel, hostel. On the deity of crossroads and travels, temple is a bazaar and meeting place. A hostel and a hospital as well. Place of safety. Say to the sunlit shrine. Okay. Temple at the steps of the palace. We'll call it for now. The worship of the forebearers. I feel like no temple. I think it's probably more of a have idols in your homes. Maybe people sell them in the market. When you go to the market there, um, people are selling idols of strange things. Maybe it's like idols of the walkers. Um, and the Dragon of Entropy. Well, maybe it does have a temple. No real temple yet. But people gather in the upper ruins beneath the city for its visitation. Yeah, that's what I was thinking, Gravia. Same page. Is that the upper ruins, which are safe, more or less, are a place of gathering. So even if a government official or something decided, no, we don't want you to do that, well, good luck trying to stop a bunch of people who believe in something. Okay. So, I think we need to answer a question that we haven't answered. What kind of government does the city have? So thus far, we do have kind of a communist council. That was fun. Basically the Soviet Union without Stalin. Take Stalin, put him in a meat grinder, throw the meat out the window, and then you have the Soviet Union. But on a giant alligator, because that's a thing. But this great big city that was quite prosperous. Okay, that's fair. So Gravia said that such a moved on city might be the beginnings of a court or council, or the beginnings of democracy. Um, Gravia is feeling like they don't believe the city should have a monarch. And that's, I think, a completely valid perspective, but I would like to hear more perspectives if there are any. And on that note, the government of the city, think about that over break, because it is currently break time. Grab some water, get a snack, get whatever you need to feel comfy. We'll be back in just a couple minutes. I'm not really sure if there's else going on right there, but anarchy. I like that. We'll talk more in just a couple minutes. And we are back in no time flat. I got some water, used the facilities. I'm ready for more creation. Oftentimes my breaks are a little too long, so I was hurrying this time. 3 minutes just feels like no minutes. Hey. Oh, back to government, because we're not all sick of government. I had a thought. Establishing that the city's very wealthy interests want to unearth more technology. I think it would be interesting if there was, budding plutocrats, but not necessarily any actual, none of that cloak and dagger kind of plutocracy, but people who very obviously just want to make moneyed moves and maybe, attempt to influence the city's government. So I am thinking that maybe this is a post monarchy or post monarchy state that representative state, maybe. Could be very recently post monarchy too. That saying that because maybe maybe there is no current limit on the number of like representatives, and so basically anyone who can make a case again to the current representatives about why they should be allowed to sit in can. So wealthy people can just hire people to vouch for them, and ta-da! Suddenly they're able to sit on city matters. You know, I like that idea of the whole people for the people thing. Um, and so maybe that's what it is. Maybe there was no, maybe the noble class, so to speak, kind of died out or turned into these rich merchants who were then ousted. So people. Um, an oligarchy of adventurers who survived the ruins. Oh, that would be hilarious. Um, so councils are chosen by the people without a robust court system. Uh, I'm the okay. So let's roll back here. I want the government to be a mixed bag, right? I feel like the city itself is a mixed bag, and I think that the government should represent that. A little tired of the city being a mixed bag and it being pure autocracy, because that's not a mixed fucking bag. But I'm thinking post monarchy. Let's actually just call it an anarchist council. Yeah, why not anarchy? Um, ooh, tribunal. I like that. Post monarchy anarchist tribunal. Um, so mayhaps maybe what happened is members of the of the revolutionary group selected council members. That way, it creates it creates kind of a charismatic oligarchy at the moment, because well, the revolutionary group was probably quite charismatic to the people. So you have this charismatic oligarchy, but that while it hates the merchants, or the rich, probably has not really done a great job at really pushing them out. And everyone has war fatigue, or not war fatigue, but conflict fatigue. Cromwell. Not sure on to which Cromwell you're referring, but I am interested. Color me interested. Oh, Oliver Cromwell. Okay, valid. Really rusty on the English Civil War, so I'm honestly struggling to remember because I'm super good at that history. I tried though, and if you feel like educating, great. Otherwise, I'll definitely look it up later, because if there's a historical reference, I really think it would be fun to pick at that. Granted, English historical references are a little overrepresented in fantasy. Still, be amusing. Ah, that's fair. Ooh, that's a good idea. Needed them to restore order. Okay. Everyone can end tribunal. Noble class solve squabbling merchants. Do you just have a mind for dates? Because I certainly don't. That's fair. I enjoy historic facts. I just very rarely remember the dates they happened. Like, yes, this thing happened. They're like, when? I'm like, I don't fucking know. Why are you asking me that question? Do I look like an encyclopedia? No, I can just tell you this thing and you can go find it on your own because I'm lazy. Okay. Let's zoom back out. Ah, fair enough. Yeah, I mean, castles are fun. I haven't really visited that many. Visited a couple in Germany and one in England. Hmm. Ancient Scandinavian dates, I think, are quite interesting. So there's that. Let's zoom back out and take a look at the city from its top down. Beautiful city. Apparently, recently went through probably just like one of those 24-hour civil wars. It's like the people rose up, they took the thing, ta-da. Mostly because I don't necessarily want it to be so war torn that it was clearly a protracted war of attrition. That would suck. And I don't want that grim. I don't want that grim thing hanging over. That's fair. Half lost Pixie. So all life So on top, the city clearly has a robust creative infrastructure that has been suffering because of these dives into the ruins, which turned out to be more profitable. The noble class from the recently dissolved monarchy are squabbling merchants for the most part, and many of whom have funded delves into the Undercity, a few of whom now sit on the tribunal. Well, I mean, it is African savannah, so uh, I don't know exactly where, but that is definitely African savannah. I don't deal well with heat and sun, but it's stunningly beautiful, and I want to go someday. But not as one of those fucking voluntourists. God, fuck no. Going to visit a place, I like to try and, I don't know, respect it. So we have this appearance of the city. There's clearly, I think we should probably take a just list off trade and food. So clearly, fish from the river would be one thing. You can't overfish though, so that can be a problem. You know, when you said burst, I imagined like a vampire that was bloated, and I can't handle the image. It's a Nosferatu. Um, so trade in food, fish from the river. I imagine that they have docks specifically for the walkers that probably extend off the side of the plateau, and the walkers just kind of walk right up to it, which I thought was a really fun mental image. Riders, maybe. Not really a plateau, though. River Stratus have their own special dock off the. Oh, farmlands, lands along the riverbanks. Exactly, Broken Golem. Farming cave bugs? Hmm. Yeah, no, that's fair. I didn't really think about, um, if it is quite a warm region. Well, I kind of already did hint at the notion of, under the blast furnace heat of the midsummer sun, all kinds of creatures find refuge beneath the tarps and shadows of the buildings. So, trade in food. Kind of lizards that are foraged. That's true. Hunting on the plains. Imagine that hunters are probably one of the few groups of people who are less negatively affected by this null zone because they spend so much time so far from the city. So Gravia, they don't have any technology more significantly advanced than the rest of the world at the current moment. While we've just established that the Striders were developed here, or at least the concept came about, they're still kind of unique. So, and that's true, yeah, fresh water. So I don't know if they would have machines that do any kind of labor. I think it would probably be animals. Um, except for, again, striders striding across the land. But if you can only create so many striders, it would be a very grim and dystopic view indeed if people were basically being forced to make striders that they then had to maintain and they then had to keep appeased for someone else's money. And I don't want to get that dystopic because that's closer to our reality, and I don't want that. Talking about hopeful things, right? So I'm just thinking through it out loud. So yeah, I think it would mostly be animals that do their labor. They might have some water power. But being high up, I imagine it would only be on the outskirts of cities, like water mills. But even then, if the river tends to go up and down quite a lot, not entirely useful. Right. Hmm. I'm trying to think of how they could have solar power. Because that threw me for a loop, but it's a good question. Did you have something else in mind? Life on High. I mean, we are kind of going through the whole magic thing. Eat and there you go. I didn't think about that. Yeah. Okay. Solar hot water, basically. Rudimentary pumps. Oof. Okay. So yeah, their technology is mechanical, but they make good use of solar energy. Solar ovens, maybe. Mirrors, things like that. Let's create a new category, and we'll just call it technology. Solar ovens, water. I don't know if I was thinking steam, because steam usually requires pressure to be completely useful. But rudimentary pumps can be powered by water wheels and aqueducts. Yeah, I mean, like I said, there are solar ovens. There's also solar water purification. That's a thing. Granted, you can't completely purify it in the sun, but you can get pretty close. Sorry, I got distracted by Discord. I saw I got tagged. All right, so let's see. Solar heating. The history of mirrors is fascinating. It was a secret tech for a long time, and the glassmakers were considered national treasures of Italy. Oh, wow. And that's okay, Malkov. I didn't honestly realize you were the same, the Malkov, and now that I know, I'm, good. Yikes. That's crazy, Broken Golem. It makes a lot of sense. Um, so yeah, I guess mirrors. Oh god. I heard about those, but I don't actually know anything about them. Do you? I would happily look. I'm actually gonna look up ancient Egyptian solar power and ancient Egyptian batteries. Well, something they designed their houses to store the sun's heat in the building walls during the day, which would then release the sun after it went down. Ah, yeah, Half Lost Pixie. So that is actually a building principle. In the Very long story shortened. I've taken several trips across the United States, across the northern United States, on train. On one such trip, I met a 70-year-old man who almost always refused to wear shoes unless people really got into a fight with him over it, named Mike Ayler. Got talking with me and someone else I met on the train, and he pioneered the in-ground homes movement in the 1980s and wrote a book about in-ground homes, and he used that concept in his book for heating at night, using solar gain and having basically a black back wall, and it's bananas. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Right, and it's very, very cold in the desert. I don't remember exactly what the book is called, but I will spell out his name. I think it's spelled like this, Mike Ayler. Um, in the in-ground homes movement of the 80s, he's bananas. He's crazy, but really brilliant at the same time. Interesting, Gravia. He's to give you a very brief introduction to him. The intro to his book was, if you're here to try and monetize this, fuck off. Like, he just basically sold the book at cost because he's seriously communist and seriously anarchist, and it's amazing. I think meeting him influenced the whole course of my life. He's not a good writer, fair warning. Yeah, Broken Golem, that's one of his books. Yeah, he's developed quite a few now. Um, the in-ground greenhouses is actually a really good one. If you're interested in permaculture, kind of like building a hoop house, but without needing the hoop house. That was, I think, his first book. He literally lived in like a hole in the ground. I'm getting super distracted. I could talk about Mike Ayler and my trips on board the Amtrak Empire Builder for hours, and I don't want to do that. So back to what we were talking about. The city has solar ovens, solar hot water, rudimentary pumps, water wheels, aqueducts, solar water purification, mirrors. Well, let's say glass mirrors, because of course before glass mirrors there was, polished planes of steel or iron or some kind of metal, bronze maybe. I will happily hop on Discord General and chat with you guys about the weird experiences I've had on the train. Um, so on that note, let's go ahead and drop the Discord link for any people watching who have not joined our Discord. Um, and sorry, I think I meant Brass, but who haven't joined our Discord, please join, because we are a group of nerds who are very accepting. It's a very wholesome community, and you should come chat with us because, god damn it, we got a lot of good people on our Discord. Gehenna Gaming's Discord. I put the chat for you. Oh, I have received a gift sub. Thank you, Broken Golem. I am very poor, so I can't really subscribe to our own channel. All right, so back to the city of lost magic, this forgotten magic. I like the idea that they are technologically advanced, and I think as a result that maybe they probably had good medicine. Advanced medicine. I think that would be really interesting to add that. Um, Not quite germ theory, but still enough understanding of sickness. Sickness, wounds, and we'll just call them maladies. Basically, anything that isn't a sickness or a wound. Not quite, because I mean, during the Western European medieval era, there was Arabic medicine, which was quite advanced. And they didn't necessarily understand microbiology or necessarily germ theory because we didn't have microscopes at the time. They could cure a lot more things than anyone in Western Europe could. Yes, they have Bacta tanks. A man is knocking on my window with holding up a cease and desist. I think their badge says Disney. Yes, thank you, Half Lost Pixie. I think it's a brilliant analysis, which is probably why the Arabian Peninsula was not the earliest, but definitely the most profoundly advanced medicine. Yes, Gravia, I understand what you mean. Black bile, yellow bile, red, yeah, all of these things associated to the humors that they use in Vampire the Masquerade. Phlegmatic, choleric, that kind of stuff. The blood resonances based on the humors of the specifically English, well, Western Europe. Okay. Defense medicine, glass mirrors, aqueducts, water wheels, rudimentary pumps, solar hot water, solar ovens. Those two beg the idea that these people have a significant understanding of solar energy as in passive solar energy. Yeah, so what else do you think would result from that? If they have solar ovens and solar hot water, they understand solar gain. A very big or what did you say earlier? Broken Golem, solar mass? Or thermal mass, there we go. So if they understood that, what is something else that they could do? What's another technology? They have hot water. That's amazing. A lot of places wouldn't. Solar ovens that they can cook things without fire. That would seem like magic to some people. Water wheels and pumps, so they can pump water up much higher than anyone else. So they probably have running water up on the plateau. Greenhouses. Advanced gardening. I like that. Public baths. Yes. Hygiene. Yeah, fair enough. Hygiene. Hygiene's role. Health. I was just talking about this with Danny the other day. I think it's a base human impulse to share things with your tribe, with your people, with your family. Like if you have food, it feels strange if other people aren't eating. There's, and obviously most of us overcome this, but it's still this thing where it's like, oh, I'm eating and you're not. I will share with you because you're part of my unit, my family. And we obviously unlearn this intentionally because sharing food that you are in fact eating and not just sharing from a single source can increase the spread of disease. Hygiene, these things that they feel very natural. It helps us connect to share food, to share things mouth to mouth, so to speak. Like, I mean, stoners do it all the time. They always share joints, right? People share cigarettes all the time, all these things. But that an understanding of hygiene would mean having these seemingly unnatural tendencies, such as not being as physically close maybe as you once were, because it increases the spread of disease. Yeah, have lost Pixie. Children are an excellent example of that. Any behavior the child uses, ultimately, you can be like, this is what our primate ancestors probably acted like, with a little more caution, a lot more caution, and a whole lot more strength. And I think so, Broken Golem. I think that this city is the breadbasket of the region. Uh, I love thinking about this stuff. I cannot imagine how much I love thinking about this stuff. I enjoy sociology a lot. I'm not I'm not educated in sociology. I'm not educated in biology, at least not in a classical sense. But I like reading about it and like making connections. It's fun for me, at least. People who have to sit by and listen to me ramble, maybe not so much fun. Okay. I think time move away from the technology and trade and food because a deity of that's a great idea. I like that a lot. Do you think that would be a new or an old religion? Actually, why not both? Because charity never goes out of style. Yeah, so something I was thinking about for the city is that they would probably have beautiful gardens. I thought that would be nice if there was this aspect where they're excellent cultivars. Um, I don't know if that's the right word. They're excellent cultivators either way. And that, they have these beautiful gardens and the very advanced society that I think would look to people who don't live within it like a place of wonder. But then once you get there, living there long enough, you begin to see the rot, in the corners. You begin to see the problem. So maybe that's where we should go next. What do people of the world think the city? Hmm. Pinnacle advancement is a mysterious place viewed with suspicion. You must see it before you die. Mark my words. Not everything there that shines is gold. The wonder you need to see before the end. Yeah. So it is the pinnacle of advancement and created beauty. It is a mysterious place viewed with suspicion. You must see it before you die. Mark my words, not everything there that shines is gold. The city is not the same since people took the throne. Ooh, there are old gods. Excuse me. They dig too deeply past the rock, or the past in the stone. They are our only hope. They are our doom if they are allowed. I think I'm liking this idea of completely contrarian ideologies, because we talked about there being a contrarian sense here. The old religion is something of appealing to the nomadic, more agrarian side of life. Um, where a city is the confluence of many people sharing their prosperity with each other. But then the new religion is luck, fortune, worshipping of those who came before you, entropy. And now, for the outside perspectives of the city, it is the pinnacle of advancement. It is suspicious. You must see it before you die. I'll never go there. This kind of thing. Trade about taverns, taverns bring rebellion. That's fair. City is not the same as the people, or since the people took the throne. It's a blessing that they finally got rid of that monarch. I'm also liking the idea of good and bad never quite. The good and the bad kind of never quite being fulsome, dare I say. They're always in some kind of admixture. With the fall of the monarchy, good. Unfortunately, there was a bigger focus on wealth, bad, and among the people. And it brought about these different problems. Huh. Descendants of the old ways believe that they have to die there or be buried there. Trade also brings alternative ideas. It could be trade that eventually dethroned the monarchs. Maybe that's why some of the maybe that's why there's some plutocrats there, because they helped to crumble the monarchy so that they could gain power, but then the people took over and now they have to worship another person. Some might be angry that they have a new government system in the sense of stepping away from the ways that are almost tradition is bad. The word for that is juvenoia, and fair. Okay. The merchants, the nobles, the people, the investors of the world, accidentally or intentionally, caused the fall of the monarchy. The royalists, they caused the fall, and they couldn't really take power. Maybe some of them did. The ones who were on the council, on the tribunal, did manage to take some power, but those who weren't ready didn't. So now they are, merchant families. Maybe in some areas they're the merchant princes and princesses, whatever. There are some who believe there are some who believe that the world was better as it was, and some who believe that the world is better as it is now. So this is not merely the city of lost magic, it is also a city of dichotomy. It's a city of... It's Gemini City. My people! I only know the word juvenoia because it's very relevant to me. Mostly because I think that the idea of juvenoia is hilariously misguided, and that everyone should be endeavoring their very best to fight their own juvenoia. Even if that means teasing yourself over your own juvenoia. Why are you ashamed of that? Vsauce is amazing. I love Vsauce. God, I should send him a message and be like, "Hey, dude, I love your show. You should like, I don't know, do something to sponsor us." I love Vsauce 1. Vsauce 2 and Vsauce 3 is not really my jam, but they're still really good. We've made a lot of progress on this city today because it arose from nothing and became something thanks to because creating is better with friends. I don't know about you guys, but I've had a ton of fun tonight. We're nearing our close. We've got about 15 minutes, so I'm gonna just start winding down, um, taking a step back, kind of admiring the thing we made. And I think I want to start a new tradition at the end of each episode. What are your criticisms? What are things that you personally would change? What are things that you want to see more of? And this isn't necessarily to say that this is going to happen, but that said, it's important. Because in the design process, which is something that I'm frankly just practicing, this for me is as much a learning experience as it is fun, as it is making something that we can use. What is something you would change? What is something you'd see more of? Something you're excited by that you would want to? You can start a setting, you can start a world, you can start a game off of any single idea. So if you feel like you want to create a setting, you should. Absolutely should. Even if it's only a concept. Even if it's only something you said, you know what, I really like this thing. And pinning down that thing can be really hard. I really highly recommend picking up books and reading them. I really highly recommend listening to other people's experiences with creating. Highly recommend talking to other creators. You are an endless font of creativity. That's what all humanity is, I think. That our ability to create, our ability to make, our ability to imagine is what has made us so successful and so dangerous. So, if you want to create something, identify things that you like that fulfill that vibe. That's step one. Whatever it is. I really like fantastical things a lot. So, like, I would put Star Wars in there, personally. I would put Avatar: The Last Airbender in there, personally. I would put, all of these things that I enjoy for this feeling. And then compare them. Contrast them. Say, this thing has these elements. This thing has these elements. What is the same? What is similar? Boil it down. Like you're making a nice red sauce on the stove, boil down the goddamn tomatoes. They can't be tomatoes, they have to be sauce. So once you get your idea, your sauce, you can then season it. You can change it up. I'm making cooking metaphors. You can do your thing. But you have to start with the acknowledgement that maybe you don't know exactly what you want. And you have to figure it out. That's okay. That's the part of every creation. Not being exactly certain what you want. So now that tangent's over. Good. I cook all the time, half lost Pixie. I am a house spouse. My primary job is helping my spouse be able to do their job. So for us very disabled people, that means that we have to support each other. And for me, that means cleaning the house, cooking, all that stuff. I am a 1950s housewife, in non-binary form. And so I absolutely have learned to love. It's wonderful. It is an act of creation and an act of love. So if you don't cook, by the way, you should. I don't care who you are. Learn to cook. Guarepua and sofrito. Ah. Analogy, the mother blends. I love making spice blends, and I think that's a really excellent analogy, to be honest. Completely amazing analogy, actually. Because every single creation, every single setting, every single design all comes back to one unifying element. The person, the people. What humans see, what humans hear, what humans feel, what humans think. I mean, we are all boiled down to, a very long list of combinable elements. So vast that it feels like we're all actually unique. But at some point or another, who knows how long, because we haven't identified all the elements, there's someone exactly like you. It's just so very, very far off and so unlikely that it's not worth considering. Same for spice blends. Same for settings. Borrow, take from things you love, and always take from far away. You want to build a fantasy setting? Go start looking into sociology and psychology and all of these things, and ask yourself what you enjoy, what makes life whimsical for you. Look into cooking, borrow ideas and thoughts and merge them all together. Design and creating setting is the most interdisciplinary thing you can do, I think. Because you're asking yourself, what would life look like a different way? All the hugs to the doggo dragon? And cooking is chemistry, yeah. Just chemistry that we don't use the language of math or the language of well, we do use some math. Let me pause. You can do cooking very well without math and without written language, but you can't convey the message about exactly how to replicate it without math and without written language. Oh, that's right. I forgot about that. All hail the Papo Dragon! Meanwhile, I tweet about that. Hail the hashtag Papo Dragon. The same, to be honest, Half Lost Pixie. You know, and that's what I'm trying to say is that, um, right? You said it's chemistry. You can do it because it's not going to blow up in your face if you do it wrong. Some things will actually, like for example, making bretzel. Don't put too much lye. You will have a bad time. Still, we are way off track. But I noticed earlier that Broken Golem said that the name of the city should be based on dichotomy. The word dichotomy, and I agree. So I think maybe for the last 5-10 minutes we should spend some time naming this. We've been using a lot of Egyptian concepts, so why don't we go ahead and go to the ever unfaithful Google Translate, and we're gonna go from English to what do they speak in Egypt right now? I think it's Egyptian. Modern standard Arabic. Fine with that. Ah, hello there, Patrick Grimkin Lord. Right. I think that I'm gonna just see if there's a word for dichotomy in Arabic. There probably is, because Arabic's a kind of complete language. Oh, that's a very long word. Ray. Yeah. Ah. Tafra Sunai. Tafra. I like that word. So apparently that is tafrai. Um, where's that? Oh, I don't like that 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 these two words, tafrai tunai, means dichotomy, but if you reverse the translation, there's no more there's no translation apparently that is multiple words, because a lot of course English words translated in another language are multiple words and mean something else. Apparently there's no meaning for those. Okay. Look up magic. Magic is apparently ar. Ah, tafrai means fork or branch. That makes sense, actually. Oh, that makes sense a lot. Tahar is magic. Tafrai. And yeah, I didn't really think of just doing the tafrai. Like I said, disclaimer, we're not linguists. We're using Google Translate. It's terrible, but we're using it and we're going to amalgamate and change it so it doesn't actually resemble the original word. And Half Lost Pixie, is that Furian? Or Altalak? I'm never going to nitpick over how we choose names because fantasy naming conventions are bollocks. I didn't realize you knew Aramaic. Be confused with Amharic. Which I have done many times. Hmm. Interesting. Okay. Korean duality. I mean, tafrai. So, all right. So I think that's a good base word. So if tafrai is a good base word, tahar is magic, and then Furian is Somali, or Furian, Al-Talak. So what I like to do personally is take words like this and just kind of futz around with them. So like if I combine the two ones, so for like a magic dichotomy, it's like Trafahai, something like that, or Tasahar. And of course, always along the way, saying it out loud so that I know if you're like Tasahar or Tasahar or Tasaha, or if they round their words Tasahar, or not round, roll their R's. I always pronounce it because I want to know how often are people in my setting going to make stupid jokes. And I mean, don't get me wrong, it's going to happen, but you can at least mitigate it a little bit. Altasaruin. That's a cool name. Altasaruin. Altasaruin. Whoa. I can't that word. Let me highlight it. Okay, yeah, that's got a letter I don't know how to pronounce. Bariak? Okay. I'm gonna mix both of them because I like the Q at the end. Altariak. What do you think? I mean, I really do like Altasaruin as well. That's good. Altasaruin, but it's 5 syllables. Altariak is 4. I tend to try and lower things down, but I do like Altasaruin. You know what? I'm gonna go with Altasaruin. Because I feel like at the end of the day, people would assume then that there's something involving a ruin here, which is not wrong. It's very right. So it tends to work based on expectation. Pretty powerful. So it's probably better design. Phonetics aren't always the thing. Right. Well, Altasaruin, City of Lost Magic, City of Dichotomy. Huh. Altasaruin. Maybe. We'll make a note. Or maybe the old religion calls it Altariak. It's named before the revolution. Beautiful. Okay, we have only about 1 minute remaining before I have to end this stream, like end to end. So let's go ahead and wrap it up. Thank you guys so much for coming along tonight on this little journey into Worlds and Crafts. Worlds and Crafts is a stream where we talk about setting building, where we talk about metaplots, mechanics, minutiae, and tomorrow at 12 noon Eastern Daylight Time, we're going to be talking about maps with Incarnate. I hope y'all follow us on social media, and if you don't, you should definitely click those links and give us a follow, because Gehenna Gaming produces a lot of really amazing content. This Saturday, I am going to be taking part in our Saturday night one-shot. I'm going to be playing the horror game Final Girl. So please give us a follow here on Twitch and check us out then. If you're, again, not part of a Discord, please join. We would love to have you. When we're doing Worlds and Crafts, we use the mapping program Incarnate. Check out the link there. It's wonderful. Gotta cut it off now, guys, so thank you so much for joining. Remember, creating is better with friends, and don't do anything I wouldn't do. Have a good night.